back to the Paranorm Girl podcast. I am your host, Kristen. I have an awesome show prepared for you guys and a really neat guest who I think can talk about just about any single subject of the paranormal you could imagine. He is a previous guest and is a good friend of mine and of the show, and I am so thrilled to be able to welcome him back on. I will introduce that guest in just a moment, but first, breaking news. Our friends at Manscaped are now selling beard products just in time for Valentine's Day. That's right. The leaders in men's below-the-waist grooming are once again revolutionizing the men's hygiene game with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble and tame his mane this Valentine's. Save 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com and using code PNG. All right, so I am going to talk about all of the products in the kit today, just give you a little introduction. It is all so cool, dudes. So Lee is growing out his beard, actually. Like, I kid you not. He's always so supportive of just the weird and fun things that I tend to get involved with in my life. I don't know what that's about, but he's ready to embrace his silver foxiness right now. So I'm very excited for him. He actually sent me this picture recently of this person online who had these like full arm sleeve tattoos and this kick-ass like Viking beard. And he asked me if I thought he could pull off the look. And I was like, you better try. Because you know what's better than a coiffed scruff and some ink, right? Okay. So I'm going to introduce all of the products to you in this kit. I will go into depth a little bit more in the next few episodes. I just want to give Lee enough time to really go through all of the items and experience it so that I can bring back to you, some personalized, real feedback from him. All right, so let me run through these real quick. So the box also comes with instructions, if you want to follow them, of this whole beard trimming and taming process. I mean, I didn't know there was a process. I didn't know it could be any more than what it already is. So cool. All right. So first up, you're going to want to cleanse that bad boy. Comes with the beard shampoo, followed up by the beard conditioner. This is a leave-in conditioner, going to make it nice and soft. Run my fingers through it. Then you're going to want to trim. So it comes with its own beard trimmer. It's got a little head encasing the blade part. And then this thing has 20 different levels to it. So 20 lengths that you can shave. Started out real close, started out a little bit further away, whatever length you want, you can get. It comes in its own little hard case, zip-up hard case. Now, once you have trimmed to the length that you want, it is time to brush it out. Comes with a really cool, it's a wooden handle brush, just bristle brush. You can get rid of any excess, shavings or whatever that's left. Just kind of brush that baby out, followed by the comb. It's a wooden comb, double-sided comb to tame it. Am I crazy? I was not aware that there was such thing as a beard comb, or that you would want to comb your beard. I didn't know. I'm being introduced to a whole new world here. All right, so at that point, the kit also comes with these really cool shears. And like when I say shears, I mean shears. Like these are pretty heavy duty, like real deal. They kind of look titanium, like it's just got that really nice polished dark metal to it. These are no joke. So you'll use that to trim any flyaways, anything that you missed. And then to round out the process, little beard oil. Okay, this is a moisturizing serum, followed by the final part of the process, the final step, the beard balm. So this is a pomade. So that's going to help you put the final flourish on your styling choice. It's a spa in a box for a dude. Like, I am excited for Lee. I am so excited for him. So Right now, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code PNG at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code PNG. Manscaped Beard Hedger. One stroke, one guard, 20 lengths. My guest is an incredible artist with the flair for the supernatural and the spiritual. He is an award-winning blogger and illustrator and creator of the Tarot of the Unexplained. He was initiated in Wicca, Lukume, and Palo Mayombe, and he has lived a life rife with experiences and encounters of the unexplained and the mysterious. He also has a thought or two about the subject we are studying this season, unidentified flying objects. Please enjoy my conversation with David Linabury.
The first thing you need to know about me, I'm one of those people who's lucky, always in the right place at the right time. And so I end up having some weird experiences. One of them was I was at GM working in a think tank, but I wasn't in a think tank. I was just there helping them fix computers. Had a cartoon laying out at my desk, and this director walked by and said, "Did you draw that?" I said, "Yes." He was, "Come see me tomorrow." And the next day I got whisked into this weird think tank working on government projects where they sent me to work at Los Alamos and IDEO and Disney and a bunch of other places working on strange things for GM. Because they do military work too. And that wasn't all we did, but we worked on a lot of unusual things where we didn't have any intervention from EDS or the union. And we got to work on whatever we wanted to just solve weird problems for GM, and did that for a long time. But it was interesting being sent over to Los Alamos because I got to work on some very unusual things over there. But yeah, I trained as an artist and an illustrator my whole life since my parents knew I was going to draw. By the time I was 2, I was always drawing. And when I was around 15, I got really interested in the occult, and it came from part of it was just I just wasn't really interested in. My parents were sending me to a Christian school, and it just didn't make sense to me, a lot of it, and I was always questioning it. And everything that I would bring up, I would get tossed back, like, "Well, no, you just have to have faith," or And I know I don't want to put it down. I got a good education there, but I kept questioning it and going, "There's got to be something else out there." And one day, while I was one day at a bookstore, a book literally fell off a shelf and landed on my feet. And I was like looking at the shelf like, that was weird. And I picked it up, and it was this book called The Book of Shadows by Lady Sheba. And it was a grimoire from this Wiccan group in the 70s. I never had heard of Wicca. I didn't know what it was. Because obviously I'm older. I went to school I was in high school in the 70s. And it wasn't really a known religion back then that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think some counterculture people probably knew about it, but it wasn't really talked about like it is now. And the same year, I ended up getting initiated into Wicca by a very fascinating blind witch in Michigan. And then things just kept snowballing. And I kept meeting other people. In 93, I got initiated into Palo Mayombe as an engangalero. And then in 2006, I got initiated as a santero in Santeria, and also a Rosicrucian. So I have a lot of weird, like different outlooks on religions, and a little different background, I guess, than a lot of people having Western, African, and I guess Rosicrucian's more your Egyptian kind of outlook on things. And then Wicca is obviously ancient European, or kind of ancient European, and kind of really invented in 1951. But yeah, the UFOs, I always liked those. When I was a kid, there was a show with Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock, called In Search Of, and he talked about those. And one night, my dad and I loved that show. One night we were watching, not that, but we were watching Kojak, and Kojak in the show is this detective show. He yells, "Look!" And as soon as he yelled it, we looked outside for some reason, because he was pointing, and you just follow people's fingers. And we went like that, and something whipped across our backyard in the air. And we were like, my dad goes, "What was that?" And we ran outside. The whole neighborhood was outside already.
Oh.
And there was a thing hovering over our neighborhood, like not even that far up off the ground, maybe 30, 40 feet. and it was holding still, and it was a ring of light spinning around it. We were like, is that a flying saucer? We're all like, I don't know. But it had a loud grinding sound, and you could smell exhaust. So we were kind of like, oh, whatever it is, it's stinky. And then it just kind of like eventually just moved away. And the next day, there was all this flood of calls to the police and everything about it. Over 300 people saw it. They told us it was an advertising plane. My dad worked in advertising. He was vice president of one of the biggest agencies in America at the time. I mean, my dad was basically Don Draper, and he was like, there's no such thing as an advertising plane, and we don't have any planes that hover.
Okay.
There aren't any.
Right.
The only planes at the time that hovered were Harrier jump jets out of Britain, and those things we would have been knocked to the ground if one of those was over us, and those don't have rings of lights around them. So we found the answer unsatisfying, but whatever it was, it did have an engine, and it did give off exhaust.
Right.
So maybe it was some kind of experimental craft. It wasn't a helicopter, that's for sure. It didn't make that kind of sound.
Yeah.
The only other incident I've had was explainable, for sure. I explained it myself, and that was I was driving home during rush hour traffic on I-75, which is a very big freeway that goes from the top of Michigan all the way to the Florida Keys. And sun was really bright, and there was this gleaming object flying past, and it was keeping pace with the cars, and people started slowing down, and finally people just were hitting their brakes and getting out of their car. I'm like, I'm doing it too. What is that thing? And all of a sudden it veered towards us, and we all started laughing because it was a wet seagull. The light was hitting the water on its feathers just right that it looked like a metallic gleaming object. And I was like, wow, what a weird optical illusion. But it was just a bird. Yeah. And I thought, well, I wonder how many times that happens that people see it. I'm not discounting real sightings, but I'm saying that some of them definitely are. The bird thing isn't as weird as people think it is.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. There's plenty of easily explainable examples of sightings and even abduction stories, there's plenty of examples and reasons why it's totally explainable. But yeah, then there are those stories and encounters that we run into that are just, it's not so convenient to explain them away with, even the modern day reasons or, excuses as to what it is, like drones and planes and helicopters. And it goes back, it used to be weather and
Yep.
whatever, spy planes. And before that, it was signs from heaven and angels. And so like
Right.
the excuses, do change throughout time, and it's not that they aren't valid, but just not all the time. So
But did you notice that also paranormal and cryptid sightings change over time too?
yep.
If you saw a little green man in America right now, people would say you saw a Martian or something, or an alien. If you saw it in Ireland 100 years ago, they say you saw a leprechaun. If you were in Mexico and you saw it out in the forest or the desert, they would say you saw Mescalito, the god of the mescaline.
Yeah.
Everything, those things, we have our own racial and ethnic filters, and then our own personal experiences of what we choose to accept and how we choose to re-relate it to people.
Yeah. So I'm curious because the two experiences that you did have, both of them were explainable, whether that was satisfying or not. You did get an explanation for those, a real world physical explanation.
Right.
But you are still of the belief that this is a real phenomenon taking place, that there are occurrences that are happening that are maybe something else. Why?
I tried to get the people at Los Alamos so many times, all these physicists talk about it.
I was going to ask you about
allegedly, after Roswell, the crash was taken to Los Alamos. It's 3 hours away. It's the closest place. Well, I tried so hard. Sometimes I would just joke and go, maybe we can just reverse engineer some of our alien technology or whatever. And I would try and fit into conversations. And every time they wouldn't say no, or don't talk about that, or you're wrong, or we don't have that. They would just be quiet like this. And we'd just be like, so what were your, and then it totally changed the subject. It was weird. There wasn't denial. There was just a silence. And I think that's how they were trained to deal with it. Because most of the time, if you asked them a question where they weren't allowed to talk about it, they would openly just say, can't go there.
Okay.
And that's fine.
Okay.
And then you knew, okay, all right, it's either above your pay grade or above my pay grade or my classification level, or we just don't talk about that
Right.
for whatever reason. But there wasn't any, but with the UFO one in particular, it was just silence. I'm sure. Now, at the time I worked there, it was the same time that, I don't know if you remember hearing about Peter Lee getting in trouble with his laptop.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, he was a scientist there. He had a laptop at home, and his daughter had gotten into it to do homework. And apparently, that was a major breach of security, and it became this huge thing. With um, they were pretty lax back then when I was there. I was kind of shocked. I think GM actually had tighter security on some of the things at the time, which really kind of disturbed me. Like I went up, there was one night I was supposed to go in this one lab, and they're like, "You won't be able to get in. When you get there, you just text us. We'll come down and get you." And I was with another guy from GM. We were both there working on this project, and we saw the door was propped open, so we walked in and took the elevator up to where they were, and they're like, "How did you get in here?" We're like, "Well, the janitor put a garbage can in the door. Like he's throwing something out." So we just walked in. They're like, "There's nuclear secrets by the front door." I just came back from our printer. I'm like,
Oh
"Really,
no.
you might not have. You might want to."
Security a
But that's
little
not okay.
lax at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it changed that since they had a huge overhaul of everything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it's like now, but I wonder though, since all the ATIP has come out and all this acknowledgement, Project Blue Book's been released. The British government, they released something similar called I have a link of it for you too, from their National Archives, um, Ministry of Defense and UFO Sighting Report
Mm-hmm.
from the
Mm-hmm.
National Archive. But between those two, I think maybe people are more a little open to talking about stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know. I should ask some of the old friends I had over there. But
Yeah, possible. I mean, with the disclosure, I know some people aren't happy with how the extent that they're going to with that, but it has become a little bit more comfortable, I think, on their side, on governmental side, and it's okay now for people those officials to start openly, having interest and asking these questions and trying to bring this information to the forefront, as well as just regular people too. Like, it's not. There is still that taboo and that stigma, but it's not quite as much as it used to be, and it's because just in the last couple of years, like that the article I talked about it, what is it, black auras and something or other, the Pentagon secret UFO program. Like when that article was published, that was New York Times, like big deal.
yeah, right.
And yeah, it just started snowballing this conversation, and it feels like everybody is talking about it
I think it
nowadays.
was called Glowing Auras and Black Money.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Well, okay. So what were you doing exactly at Los Alamos? Oh, oh,
Good on
yeah.
stuff.
You have to kill
No,
me now?
we were working on I can't talk about all of it, but it was
Okay.
all I can say is it involved microwave technology.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
But
You worked, and I'm going to be very careful about how I phrase this. You worked with a well-known person that we've talked about in private. Are you able to talk about them?
uh
We can skim right over it, but I wanted to
skim
ask.
over it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, don't want to get you in trouble. All right, all right. Um, so
I don't know if I get in trouble. I mean, it's a matter of record where he worked. So
right. Yeah.
I guess it's like what we bring up is what he would like, not like. But
Yeah, no,
if you guys want to know what it was, I used to work tangential. That our group was on a tangent because he ran the R&D group at GM, and that was Dr. Kit Green, who was in charge of a lot of spooky things, including he was part of MK Ultra, and he was part of or ran, I think, a lot of the remote viewing experiments. But he was at GM for a while too, working on things that we didn't really care for.
Spooky stuff. Well,
Yep.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm curious, when you were asking, your coworkers or whoever, you were working under, like, these questions that you had, and they just kind of gave you those none or no answers at all.
Yeah.
Do you think they actually knew the answer?
I don't know. I'm
Okay.
sure they do. I'm sure they knew at least something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how much everybody there knows, because you're basically kind of given your clearance is based on what you work on, and it's like you may have top secret clearance to work on one thing, like maybe they have a particle collider over there. Maybe you work on that, but you don't have access to the genome project, or you don't have access to the atomic stuff. It's like everyone has something different they're on, and it's like I think they kind of like silo you pretty tight over there.
I got you. Okay. Now, last time we talked, you did say, tell me another experience that I thought could have very well been ufolic in nature. You spoke about something that you said may have been ball lightning, that
Yes.
story. But the way that you described it, the way that it was moving, the area that it was in, it seems impossible to me that that was ball lightning. Would you mind just rehashing that
Yeah.
story for us?
Yeah. I used to be in a coven with Jackie Smith. If you guys know who she is, she's I just co-authored, or not co-authored, I illustrated a book for her recently. She's a really famous witch who owns a massive candle company, a cult candle company called Coventry Creations. She and I had met like way back, and we were our first coven together, and we were at her house one day, and everybody was over, like the whole coven was there, and we had just finished circling. One guy was still meditating in one room for some reason. He just had this thing he wanted to work on. We're like, okay. So we were being quiet, but all of a sudden someone goes, "What is that?" And we turned around and we all saw this weird ball about this big that was glowing blue, like neon blue, and it whipped around the house, and we've chased it, and it went in this. We followed. I mean, it wasn't so fast that we couldn't follow it. That's what weirded me out about it being lightning, was like you'd think it would be too fast to move because of the
Right.
light. This wasn't. Definitely faster than us, but maybe like the speed of a dog or cat, like about 30-40 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And it whipped into the laundry room and vanished, and we never saw it again. The whole experience was probably 4 seconds.
Wow.
And we were like, what the heck was that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've had other people say, "Oh, that was orbs." I don't believe in orbs. I really don't. And every time I see the photos of orbs, I'm always like, that's just dust on digital cameras. And the way digital camera sensors don't work as well in low light as film cameras do, because we didn't have orbs on film cameras. And now they're saying, "Oh, that's just because the new technology is picking them up." It's like, or the new technology is not as good. It worked on
Helping
sensors.
to create it. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work on light the same way film does.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe in orbs. I mean, it's just not that there's not things that couldn't come in orb shapes. They do. I know for a fact there are a lot of people who tell me they've seen spirits in that shape before.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That appeared to them that way. And I know that the ceremonial magicians talk about when they make servitors, where they literally conjure up but they basically invent a spirit that will help them do things, and it does like one thing really well. It usually is a sphere.
Interesting.
We didn't
Okay.
do that. We didn't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah.
What we were working on.
So it wouldn't have been necessarily connected to your guys' energy or what you were putting out at that time. It was just kind of.
If it was, we don't know how we made it. We don't. I mean, we don't know where it came from or anything. It just like appeared in the living room and ended up in the laundry room and disappeared. But we don't.
Okay.
So again, we were thinking at the time, like, this has got to be ball lightning, but the color's wrong, and it just appeared in the house and then moved and disappeared. The whole thing was strange. We don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, so strange. And the only reason I say possibly ufolic connection there is just throughout history, people have reported seeing glowing balls, glowing globes in the sky. And I don't know, the way that you described it moving and that speed and going through.
There's even been reports of people seeing a big one in the sky, and then a little tiny ones in the area that followed them or kind of interacted with people. And that's another thing. So I have this theory that all this stuff, and it's not my original theory, but I'm looking at some different things that I've seen written, but like Robert Anton Wilson's talked about this. Charles Fort wrote extensively about this, that all of this stuff at one level is connected. There's a lot of people who believe UFOs are spiritual. Dr. Lay. There's a lot of people who believe aliens are angels. I mean, all that stuff, maybe all this stuff is all one thing. Maybe it's all archetypes of our brain that we're projecting somehow. There could be so many things, ways of interpreting it.
Is that generally where you lie? Do you think it is all connected?
Yeah, I do. I think all this stuff, I mean, the fact that they all seem to happen at the same times, that's what's so weird. There's so many times when if you read about a Bigfoot account, look at the UFO boards, you'll find the same area will have reports the same days. And it may not be the same people seeing it. That's what's really strange. It's like one side of the mountain might see the Bigfoot, the other side sees the UFO. And meanwhile, there's people having their electricity going haywire, or psychics are starting to have strange dreams, and um, all this stuff seems to happen at the same time in the same way. The greatest example that I can think of is the whole Moth Man story back in, was it 66, 67? That was, people were seeing Indrid Cold for 2 years before the Mothman showed up. And then the Mothman was there for a while. He didn't just show up and then the bridge collapsed. He was appearing for quite a long time, and it may have been a bird again, like some people say it was probably just a blue heron that they were seeing at night. More people said it was a bird. Although, wait, I take that back. There was a guy I saw on TV recently, and he was military, and he said they asked him if he could release what had happened at that time. And he said, yeah, we were actually working on jetpack propulsion, vertical lift, individual person things. He goes, it's entirely possible that would be, and it had the thing they had the guy's arms outstretched, and they had the kind of webbing, kind of like how we have the guys that do that flying now, where they have I can't really call that. It's not really parachuting, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
they have suits that look like flying squirrels. Well, this was something like that, but it also had a jetpack. And he said, yeah, we were doing that exactly at that time at a military base right near there. So it's entirely possible that's what they were seeing.
Oh.
He goes, I can't explain glowing red eyes, but everything else. He goes, they all said it was a bird, looked like a big bird that didn't flap its wings and went straight up vertically. And I'm like, well, that would explain it.
Yeah. What was
but all the other weird things?
Right. Didn't the bridge fell, right? People lost their lives.
People kept getting these calls from Indrid Cold, and a lot of them indicated something bad was going to happen. And then people that saw the Mothman said they had this dread feeling that something bad was going to happen. And a lot of people started having terrible dreams about drowning or about bad things. And no one knew exactly what it was. But then, the bridge had too many people on it. It was a traffic jam during Christmas. There was a poor construction, and it hadn't been maintained. So one part of the bridge gave out. 46 cars went underwater, and a whole lot of people died.
Yeah.
It was a terrible accident. I mean, absolutely terrible. But I find it strange now that city has a giant Mothman statue, because it's like, why would you commemorate the negative part of that?
I don't know. Tourism draw, man. You do what you got to, I guess. Yeah, it's a fascinating story. And that's interesting to me. Like I get excited when I hear or realize a very good explanation for just sightings of anything. Like when it just hits home, it makes sense. I'm like, yes, I can accept this. And it makes me even more excited because I see these other examples, throughout history of things that are just not so explainable. And the countless examples that we can see back hundreds of years, like even you and I were talking about those really, really early cave paintings in Altamira and Lascaux. And you said something totally acceptable, and like, yeah, actually it could be as simple as that the circles and the ovals that you see, it could be something as simple as a stone,
or a bowl,
or a bowl. I was thinking maybe a sun in the sky.
Planets.
Yeah, it's still very curious to me, and I never found an answer for those other symbols that I was asking you about. I did talk about them on this last episode, but just very curious. It's a mystery for sure.
People want to jump to. It's so funny. I remember reading an article about all the releases of the UFO reports, because like this year has been out of control. There's been 510 reports already, that people want to jump to aliens immediately. And they said, look, 1/3 of all the murders in New York are unsolved. That doesn't mean they're not done by humans. Of course they were.
Right.
We don't have to jump to, well, of course it's aliens, just because some people on TV say that it's aliens all the time. It's like, it doesn't have to be. Some of these things could be. I was looking at how they've divided up their findings this year. Okay, so out of 510 sightings right now, 38% were explainable. That means 62% are not. They said 163 were attributed to balloons or balloon-like entities.
What is that? Like the flailing arm man, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe those took off, or some of those giant dragon kites or something. 26 were found to be of various types of drones. That I seriously believe. And if you think that UFOs and drones can't be mistaken, you need to look up some of the things kids are doing with programming drones right now, where there's kids that'll have like a field. They'll have 48 drones laid out, and they'll go up and they'll do like almost like acrobatics and ballets almost in the air, but they make like UFO shapes and stuff. And
yeah,
you saw hundreds of lights doing things like that in perfect synchrony, like perfectly synchronized. You'd be like, maybe more of these sightings are drones.
Yeah.
The drone technology is really good, and it's easy to program them to do things.
Oh, yeah.
And then 6 reports were attributed to clutter, the category that includes plastic bags, weather phenomena, and birds. Birds are clutter, apparently.
Apparently. With the drone thing, you just reminded me. So over on TikTok, the last 2 weeks, there's been this rash of these, and people have been capturing it on video, just this metallic ball in the sky. And a lot of them, a couple of them, it's just sitting up there, like hovering, just in one spot. And a bunch of them, the thing is moving, and it's got no visible means of propulsion to it, and it looks like just metal all the way around. And a good argument that I heard they got on there, well, you do know that they make round drones now. They make those, and they've got designs for, like, encased like that. The only thing with that is like I see how a couple of those videos, absolutely, I can say that is probably a drone. Like I can see, something on the bottom. Like it still has to have means of propulsion. We do not have anti-gravity, propulsion hovering capabilities like that. Like it still needs.
Well, not in the public sphere yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that. The reverse engineering or anything like that, like those super secret, top secret, covert means of propulsion are.
Yeah, Bob Lazar was saying that's what he was working on, was basically figuring all that out. Was anti-gravity was what their gift to us.
Oh, their gift to us?
Yeah, he said he saw us working with them.
Wow.
Directly. I mean, he saw bodies, and then he actually saw what he thought was, he thought it was a child, and he's like, that doesn't look like a child, a human child.
Yeah.
It was like a small person that wasn't one of us. And
Okay.
yeah, but anyways, that's his story.
Okay.
I'm going to tell his story for him, but yeah, you're right. Go back to the drone. You're saying the circular thing could be, you could see some of them, but not.
Yeah. On a few of those videos, you don't see any, like it's fully encased. You know what I'm talking about? Like they have the little handheld round drones that a consumer can buy, but they're like mesh casing, and you can clearly see the propellers inside of it, making the thing, go all over the place.
Room for air, yeah.
Yeah.
So are those videos, did they show the beginning and the end?
In one, in one that I'm going to guess is CGI'd, because I just don't know how else it could. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain any of this, but in one, yes, it did enter the frame. The guy was ready, like on the road, and this thing came whooshing by, followed by 2 fighter jets. So it was a strange one, but I don't know. That one is a little suspect. Everything else, the people just kind of came upon this thing in the sky, either moving or, the pilot. There was an airlines pilot that actually caught one. He was up 30,000 feet. This was a couple of years ago, and he caught the exact same looking thing up 30,000 feet. I don't even know if these drones can go up that high. And it went by his plane.
I don't think they're allowed to.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Plus there's a point where they can't contact the little radio base anymore.
Right.
That's troubling. It also made me think of some of the early Apollo and shuttle missions, where they'd film things following them, and they're little round things that are like whipping around the back of the Apollo things. If you look those up, those are freely available on YouTube. So with the videos, what I was saying, like no beginning and end, I get really disturbed or angry when I see, this is mostly with cryptids, when I know they're fake. But UFO and ghost ones too, there's no beginning, no end. There's just perfectly edited. Here's the phenomena. Oh, it cuts off. I don't know how it ended.
Right.
Those I know they're instantly suspect because you wouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't turn around and hit the camera going, "Oh my God, what was that? What did I just see?"
Yeah.
You wouldn't be like, just like, "All right, well, that's over."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I did see one like that where the person actually ran outside and they ended up, it was in Brazil and they were in a haunted house and things started slamming on the walls and things. And they literally got scared and ran upstairs and ran outside, and they still had the camera running, even though it was filming the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Person was seemed to be genuinely terrified of whatever was going on. Those I get, but when it's just these convenient little clips on TikTok and Instagram, I just like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do realistic effects. I mean, look at the stuff Beeble Crap does every week on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
There's little videos, or even I think there's another guy that it's like turn out the lights or something. I can't remember his name, but he does little videos of creatures coming into your windows and stuff. It's so easy to make realistic things nowadays, and deep fakes, that it's really suspect and hard to believe a lot of it. But we do know it's happening. And when it comes from the Navy, I'm always like, I don't think they would make this up. Their career's on the line.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. And I won't say his name. There's a UFO investigator, but he's rather skeptical. And he called out the Nimitz sighting for all these reasons, and he brought, trigonometry into it, and like all these reasons why all of these videos could not possibly have been, a UFO. But just like, you're either, calling these multiple members of the military too stupid to realize what they're seeing is, that they don't know what they're seeing. So they're too stupid to recognize regular everyday things like a weather balloon, like this man said, or they're hoaxing everybody. They're lying. I mean,
I like to look at people's histories. So when I see people like Carl Sagan used to be a very strong advocate, and all of a sudden he turned against it at one point.
mm-hmm.
Neil deGrasse Tyson was very open to it. Now he's staunch again. I think someone at some point tells them, you need to shut up about this.
Yeah.
And they turn, and all of a sudden they're like the worst. Oh, this is all, none of it's real. It's ridiculous. And I mean, I was so mad at Neil deGrasse Tyson when he said astronauts, let's face it, they're just a bunch of stupid grunts. They don't really know it. I'm like, wait a minute. They go through intense training and they are not stupid people. These people, most of them have master's degrees. What are you talking about?
Right.
And he said they're basically just like, he basically made it like they're just mechanics in a bigger vehicle. And I'm like, that is not true. And he said, they're not trained to look at what I know. I'm like, you act like you know every kind of science there is. So does Bill Nye. Both of them are these like ultra skeptics, but I get skepticism. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of my own experiences. But you can't say that every single one of these, especially when all the government is saying, no, there's a large percentage we don't know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
Even Project Blue Book, as much as that was meant to discredit, they said, well, we've only got 3% we can't explain. Okay, but 3% of 3,000 sightings is a lot.
Yeah.
What do you tell those people?
Yeah, no, they ended up leaving like 700 cases unexplained. I mean, it doesn't, the original amount was like 12,000 and something or other. And they were like, yeah, explainable. But still, you're left with so many that the government can't explain. And I know, they were looking into it because they were trying to debunk it. They were trying to be critical. Absolutely.
Yeah, Ellen Hynek ended up becoming pro UFO because he's like, I'm sorry, but a lot of these things I'm being told to tell them things that don't match the data I'm pulling.
Yeah.
I mean, the famous one was for us in Michigan was swamp gas. We always laugh about that one, but that's he himself said, it wasn't swamp gas. What was seen, and it's some kind of machine, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, swamp gas and ball lightning, and the things that
clouds.
Oh, clouds, hole punch clouds. That's a favorite one. And like, yeah, I've seen plenty of pictures of hole punch clouds. Like, yes, they are very circular looking, and I see how it could be mistaken. But O'Hare was real. Dang it!
Clouds don't generally move across the sky in a second, turn right angles and whip down and then jump into the ocean.
And then go into the ocean, yeah.
Or come out of the ocean.
Transmedium action.
Yeah, those are some interesting clouds those guys are seeing that we don't know about.
Yeah. I don't know. Super secret, top secret government clouds. Maybe that's what's going on.
Hello, my name is Jordan Klein, and I am the host of Fireside Paranormal Podcast. If you're into ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, the unknown, then pull up a chair and join me by the fire as we hear real stories from real people. Each episode, I interview paranormal investigators, authors, experts, and legends in their field. Here at Fireside Paranormal Podcast, we have something for everyone. If you're an experienced researcher or if you're just getting into it, we have a spot for you. We're found anywhere you listen to podcasts. So grab your friends, tune in, and remember, don't be afraid, only believe.
So I wanted to ask you, this is going to seem so strange and out of place, but I really wanted to ask you because I'm going through the history of this stuff real quick. You grew up Baptist. You still read the Bible frequently. You think it's an interesting book, so you're very familiar with it.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the UFO references in it?
Ezekiel's flaming wheels, for example. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think about that? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's...
I think that's people in the Bronze Era age are trying to explain something they saw and doing the best they can. What would you do if you saw, I think it is possible that angels and aliens are the same thing. If someone came down and had a gleaming suit on and was trying to tell you not to be afraid of it, or didn't look like a human. I mean, some of the examples, most of the angel examples in the Old Testament describe these things as having eyes all over them and being flaming wheels. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
maybe that's the UFO.
Yeah. I mean, could the eyes all over them be portholes?
The lights. Yeah, portholes or lights.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just some type of mechanical device that was the best description they could give was, those look like eyes, but they don't remember or they didn't see. Like, imagine even just looking at a flathead screw. Would that not look like a reptilian eye to someone in the old days? Because they wouldn't have such a thing. And they were using tongue and groove for all their housing then. They wouldn't have seen that or know what that was. They might have seen a lot of these things as different than we would. And because your interpretation is based on your surroundings, your knowledge of what you live with and your own mythology you've been told, you do the best you can. And your best interpretation is, you read Revelation, and you're like, what in the hell are they talking about? People with lions' heads and the bodies of locusts. I'm not seeing our geneticists working on that. No, I mean, obviously, I think that whole book is kind of nuts, but it's someone's dream. So maybe he did dream those things. Yeah.
Well, I am glad that you said that, I think people of old were, definitely just using the terms that they had at their disposal, their own personal knowledge. And I think we're doing it today, too, to explain it the best way that we can. And I'm just so curious, the civilizations of the future, how they'll look back on what we're saying about it today and think, oh,
that's so cute.
That's so cute. So archaic.
I thought it was clouds.
All right, Mr. Dave. Well, we are close to the end here. I have a couple of questions for you, random questions, unless there was anything else that you wanted to get in here about UFOs, any experiences, anything you want to do before we close it out.
The only thing I wanted to say was, when you get information about this stuff, there's pretty much 4 ways you're going to get it. It's either going to be a leak, an official government report, mass media, or from a UFO zealot or conspiracy theory people. Don't believe them. Don't believe I wouldn't believe any of them unless you keep seeing multiple ones with the same facts. And it's rare that you see all of them with the same facts, but like things like the Nimitz, everybody's in agreement. It takes a lot before you should believe some of these things. So make sure all those are in alignment, that what you see leaked from the government, what the official government report is. And the official government reports, you really got to read between the lines, because even when there's stuff redacted, they still let you know what they're not saying is as much as what they're saying. And then media is going to be sanitized and scrubbed, and it's going to be written. I know I worked in the media and I worked at a newspaper. I remember having to change election results based on advertisers not liking certain results. I mean, it was crazy. And that was a local paper. I mean, this stuff happens so frequently. You cannot trust, and I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy person. I just know firsthand media is beholden to advertising, period. And then the people who are on the fringe produce probably the most content about this stuff, but you can't trust it because
it can get a little fantastical.
Yeah, when you start looking, you're like, wow, these people are kind of nutballs, but they've got really good information.
Yeah.
And maybe they do have good information, and they're just not everything out. I don't know. I tend not to take that. Everything's a big grain of salt with me.
Yeah. No, you know what? Those people may very well be right about whatever they are talking about, but I'm totally with you on that. Like, be sure that you're getting the same information from multiple sources. That's the only way with a subject like this, at this point that we're at, that we can be more certain that it's the truth.
Historically lied to, so just be careful.
Yeah. Very, very good points. All right, let's jump into our rapid fire questions. I've got all new ones for you today.
Ooh.
Yeah. They lean UFOlic. Yeah, surprise. All right, sir.
Like you call it.
Is that? I don't think that's really a word. I keep using UFOlic, but I like it. I'm going to keep using it.
I like it. I think you should make it into a word.
I'm going to. I've just coined it.
Push it.
All right, question number 1. If we collectively were to learn beyond any doubt that UFOs are not of this planet, that there are extraterrestrial beings visiting us, what is that impact? What do you think that looks like?
I guess it depends on if they're just visiting us or if they're actually what I've heard is they're not just visiting, they've been here and they've been guiding things and they've been working with governments. That I find interesting. But I also find it hard to believe on one area, and that's that right now, basically everything is being controlled by a tiny number of billionaires. It doesn't seem like they're beholden to some alien agenda because everything they're doing seems to be pushing us towards going back to them serf and lord mentality. I mean, we're getting more of a break between rich and poor. I don't think that makes sense in line with what we've been told about aliens all this time, that they want to bring peace and they want to make everyone. Well, that would be them trying to level everything, I would think.
Yeah.
And lower the number of munitions and weapons we have, not increase them. I mean, granted, we've slowed down on, we don't make nukes anymore, but other countries are still making them. And we're making worse things. If you've seen what Turkey's doing with drones right now, that's terrifying. They have AI-powered drone armies that can autonomously just pick a victim. And they make the decision. Is this the right person to kill? Yep. Okay, let's go get them.
Yeah.
Doesn't need a human intervention. That to me is terrifying, and it doesn't seem like something that aliens would allow. I don't know, unless they're evil.
Maybe some of them are. I don't know.
Maybe they're Klingons, and we're screwed.
I don't know. The dreaded reptilians. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. What is something about this phenomenon that you think we are misunderstanding?
God, all of it. Honestly.
Okay. Specifically, what's with the cows? Am I misunderstanding that situation? Is that actually happening? What's going on?
That did happen mainly in the 70s. And I still think that it was some weird group or something. I don't know. I have a hard time believing it was, why would aliens come down and steal cows for certain body parts when they could, how hard would it be to just grab the cow and take off? They can bring themselves across here. I think they can pick, and they can lift a cow in the air. I'm pretty sure they can just take some and
just take it away.
And why would they need to? I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that they would need these things anyways, unless it's to me, that whole thing smacks of a weird religious cult.
Oh, okay.
Because it started in the 70s and ended in the 70s. It was kind of around, right? It predated and ended with the whole the thing with the satanic panic. It was like, trade one evil for the next evil, and now it's that.
Yeah, that makes it suspect when it's so strongly bookended like that in any part of the phenomenon, when it clearly started around this time and it clearly ended at this time. There's no question, like I haven't heard of a recent cow mutilation.
No, there hasn't really, although, I mean, on that Skinwalker show, they claimed to have had a couple, but I don't know. Same thing with crop circles. Those were mostly very clearly done by some clever artists.
People, yeah.
Some of them maybe not, but I don't know. It's just hard to believe that. I mean, the fact that people are like, oh, there's no way they could do this overnight. ad agencies have made giant band logos and things overnight. Perfect. Beautiful optical illusions. Don't tell me it can't be done. Someone's figured it out.
Yeah. What about those big the big designs down in South America? Is that
Oh yeah, they had
you know
like
what
the
I'm talking
Nazca
about?
lines, and there's some other ones in other countries they found out too. Thank you, Google Earth. Yeah, and they just found more Nazca lines that were buried in the forest that you can't see, but now using ground penetrating radar and all that, we were able to find a whole bunch more.
Oh.
Yeah, they just found new recently, like the last 2 years. Those I do believe were people, but I'm not sure if they were like people say, like, well, they must have been helped by aliens to make them. I'm like, I never underestimate people's creativity and resourcefulness. And I do believe maybe they were trying to show something to their gods. It doesn't have to be an alien. It could have just been, we believe there's something up there. Let us show them our world or whatever reason. These are things maybe there's a monkey god. Okay, let's make a giant monkey, that kind of thing. I don't think they were trying to signal to the aliens that way. I think those are literally, they're trying to explain their world to their god or something, or some type of thing. But
Yeah, very, very good thought. Oh my goodness. Okay. That makes sense to me. I accept that.
that is the biggest problem I have with the whole ancient alien theory. It's very racist. It's unbelievably racist. It's based in the belief that people from brown colored nations could not possibly understand mathematics or engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't possibly do these things. They had to have alien help. When it's Stonehenge, oh, well, white people did that. Of course, the Druids did that.
Right, right.
How come that's okay? But if it happens in another nation, oh, no, aliens.
Aliens must have.
Because
Yeah.
you don't believe,
Mhm.
because you're racist and you don't believe that people from other nations and other skin colors could possibly have the same science as white people did. That's what it comes down to. And I hate calling those people out like that. But the reality is that is it.
Yeah, yeah.
Look in the mirror and think about that real hard.
Yeah, yeah. No, we had a good discussion about this last time, kind of skewed more towards like how Hollywood portrays it. But yeah,
Yep.
you're absolutely right. And I don't like it too either, because they were incredibly mathematically gifted, and like that structure and numerically, it's some really incredible, some of the stuff that they were able to accomplish. Yeah.
Mhm.
And even pyramids, I do think there's a very logical mathematical reason how all of that happened. Don't think
There's
necessarily
people
that
that said
was.
that in Asia, there's monks that have learned how to levitate heavy objects with sound. Now
Whoa.
that can be done, and scientists have shown lots of time you can lift things with certain
Yeah.
vibrations. These guys will sit in circles and make certain tones with their voice and with certain instruments and cause these harmonic vibrations to occur. They believe maybe some of these giant statues were built this way, they used sound to move them, as opposed to believing that like 500 slaves were rolling them on rocks, rolling them on logs for thousands of miles. That doesn't seem as believable, because you'd think we'd see evidence of giant pathways.
Right. Exactly. All right. Last question. Yes. Okay. So recently you talked about a meteorite that crashed in Morocco, and they found amino acids on it
Mhm.
that are the same that created life on Earth.
Mhm.
Is it your opinion, and we might get a conspiracy here, but is it your opinion that the modern day human being is seeded from those materials millions of years ago, or are we the result of manufacturing and like genetic manipulation? And I'm
I
talking modern day human
Yeah,
beings.
I think the meteorites seeded life for everything here.
Hmm.
All life got brought here. If you look at the construction and the chemical makeup of the moon versus the Earth, they have nothing to do with each other. The moon's too big compared to our Earth, compared to every other moon. It's the biggest one in the solar system. It's outsized. Something's wrong with it, and it's hollow, which is strange. It rings at certain times. There's some weird things about it. And if you look it up, look up what is our moon made of, or is our moon hollow? You'll find some weird things. Now, some of them are kind of wacko, but some of them are not. And there's a lot of science behind it. And you're like, I never thought about that. A lot of things don't make sense about it. But the main thing that doesn't make sense is, why doesn't it have the same? If we were two planets that broke apart or collided, we would both have some of each other's material, and we don't at all. That doesn't make sense, because every other part of the universe or the solar system, that's the case. There's a mix, and it makes sense. Ours doesn't. I think that meteors somehow hit us and gave us the amino acids when they landed on the moon. Wasn't the right composition for it. Wasn't going to take. And that's what scientists have always said, was that evolution tries all the time and fails because it doesn't find the right mixture. When it does, things explode. Even after Mount St. Helens erupted back in the 80s, instantly they thought they said, oh, evolution takes millions of years. They found new bacteria immediately in the rivers afterwards that they'd never seen before. And they were like, well, how'd that happen? Oh, well, volcanic eruptions. Maybe these things change stuff on a lot quicker level than we think. I know I've seen natural selection out my front yard. We used to have only those big brown fox squirrels.
Mm-hmm.
This yellow America, don't have them anymore. Now we have little tiny black, red, and flying squirrels. The smaller ones they're smaller, so they had less energy requirements and they ate less. So they were able to usurp and destroy all the habitats, and all the fox squirrels have gone away now. They can't find any food. So they're so rare now. But black squirrels and red squirrels here and flying squirrels are everywhere. In Victorian England, they had white moths were everywhere. Once the Industrial Revolution started over there and everything got covered in soot and London just became a filth, white moths got picked off by all the birds and the black moths blended in, and those became the dominant ones. Once they cleaned London back up and started having safety requirements, black moths got eaten again and the white moths came back. Those things happen all the time. It doesn't take as long as we think.
Yeah.
It's quicker than we think.
Life seems to proliferate, I think, far more than people think throughout the universe. And it always finds a way. And it always finds the best way. You know what I mean?
Sounds like Jeff Goldblum.
Oh,
He finds a way.
oh no. Is that Jurassic Park that I just...
Yeah.
All right, Dave. Well, this was just fascinating.
That's a good topic.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're covering it this season.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm learning so much. It's still so early on, and I just I don't know anything. That's what I feel like, and like we were talking with, there's all these different aspects of UFOs and this world that just confuse it all. Like crop circles, like Men in Black, like the cow mutilations, like all these different aspects that just...
Yeah, but like I said, all this stuff seems to be somehow connected, whether it's weird or not.
Yeah.
Robert Anton Wilson's belief was that somewhere there's a giant cosmic joker that is just messing with us.
Yeah.
Are you gonna look into Dogon tribe?
Dogon?
Yeah,
I'll write it down. Okay. Dogon. Got it.
Yeah. They understood they drew star maps of Sirius.
Ooh.
A long time ago, and they've always known about it being a binary star system before we had telescopes strong enough to see it. They claim that's where they're from.
Huh. Awesome. Thank you for that.
That's a cool one. Yeah, there's a lot on the Dogon. There's books and books on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the first I have ever heard of them.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Thank you so much. All right, sir, where would you like people to find you and follow you?
So I'm always on Instagram, pretty much. I post several times a week, which is davezilla.art. There's also just Davezilla. Anything on Davezilla, it's probably me on the internet. Even in the Urban Dictionary, I became a verb at one point.
You're on Wikipedia too.
I'm on Wikipedia. Yeah, I'm old school internet. Yeah. Yeah, my blog turns 25 next month. It's older than some of my readers.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. That's what the Wikipedia is about, right? It was the blog.
Mostly about the blog, yeah, because it's one of the, I think it's still the longest running humor blog.
Man. Just talking to celebrities over here, folks. Don't mind me. All right. And did you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, pieces of advice you would like to leave with us today?
I don't know. I mean, I just hope if people are seeing stuff that they're not afraid to start reporting it, because I think the stigma is going away and it's getting taken seriously. So if you've seen stuff and you really, even if it was a long time ago or someone in your family had a story, please report it. We need more stories on this to figure this stuff out. That to me is the biggest thing, is I think there was such a stigma on it. It's finally going away. It's okay to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just further destigmatize it for everybody's sake.
Yeah, you're not crazy. You just had an experience.
David Linabury, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was my honor.
Thank you all so much for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about Dave or connect with him online, please, as always, follow those links in the show notes. If you are watching this on YouTube and haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate the support, you guys. And if anyone out there would like additional Paranorm Girl content, maybe you got a hankering for some supernatural, supportive, scientific studies or research, or, maybe some videos of the backlog of old conversation episodes that might not see the public light of day for a while, just follow that link to the Patreon and support the show via any of the tiers that I've got up right now. There's some pretty cool perks, anywhere from your personal shout out on the show to maybe your choice of merch to anything in between, depending on the tier. So check it out. Before we close today, I just wanted to say thank you to anyone who reached out in the past week. If you are on the socials, you will have seen my announcement that I posted about the show going dark for the week, unexpectedly and unfortunately. And it was totally appropriate and necessary at the time. I just couldn't think of anything else aside from a loss that my family recently experienced. John, my brother-in-law, was a real powerful force in this family and a source of support. And he was an absolute character. He and I did not agree on a lot of things, and he was hella stubborn. But he and I found common ground on some important things. He was a massive animal lover. He loved my sister. He loved this family and would do anything for us. And he had this wild taste in music. Like he was old school farmer. Okay, you get the type. But he would be blasting just anything from reggae to opera to just old school rock and roll, blasting it from his room, and you could feel the walls vibrating from across the house. Like that will be a favorite memory of mine. He owned the farm that I worked on last year as a driver and gave that final approval to bring me on. Because he knew I could do it. He believed in me. And John was always a man of very few words. But at the end of harvest, as I was leaving their house after thanking him for the opportunity, he turned to me and he said, "You did a good job." And that meant a lot coming from him. It meant a lot to make him proud, and I will always cherish that moment. So, thank you to anyone who reached out. Thank you for the condolences. Thank you for your positive and healing vibes. They were certainly felt and very, very much appreciated. That will be a wrap for us today, but we will be back with an all-new solo episode next Tuesday. So look forward to that. I hope you all have a really wonderful week. Until we meet again, stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.